What's up guys, Dan here. Thanks so much for joining in for another video. So this one's going to be an impromptu video. I'm about 3/4 of the way finished putting together this Track Racer TR80 Lite profile cockpit. And this is actually the third profile cockpit that I've put together. So I've got some decent experience in assembling these things. And I can tell you that this time around, it's been much easier and less of a headache to put this thing together. And it has nothing to do with the brand rig or the rig itself, because most of these profile rigs are basically identical, to be honest. But because I've done this so many times, I've developed some tips or some tricks to kind of make life easier when putting these together. And I thought, what the hell, I'd make an impromptu video and give you guys a few of these tips. And hopefully, if you're going to do this here in the near future, maybe it'll help you out. So that's the reason behind this video. And this is not going to be a highly edited thing or anything like that. I'm just going to be a talking face and kind of tell you what will really help you in this process. So the very first thing that I can say, without a doubt, this is the most important thing, is if you can get the rig or get the parts off of the floor to put them together. So these profile rigs, they are not like other rigs you've probably put together in the past that will take 45 minutes to an hour or sometimes even less to put together. That is not the case with a profile rig. This is a multi-hour and in some cases multi-day process of putting these rigs together. And one of the best, if not the best thing you can do to save your back and to save yourself a ton of headache is to get this up off the ground onto a table or whatever you can. And equally so, if you can also get it in the middle of a room like I have here so that you can walk all the way around it 360 degrees and work standing up, it's going to make the process so much more bearable, and I highly recommend doing that. So the first tip is get the damn thing up off of the ground. Do not try to put one of these together on the ground. You can do it, but it's going to make your life a total headache, or it's going to give you a total headache. So the next thing about these profile rigs is a lot of them are powder coated or painted black, and they look really pretty when you're taking them out of the box. But before you ever get started, you need to understand something. You're going to save yourself a headache if you just realize that you are going to scratch them. It is impossible to, I mean, literally, straight up, impossible to put one of these together without scratching it a lot. It's going to happen no matter how careful you try to be. So just save yourself the headache and just understand that you're going to scratch it. It's going to happen, and be okay with it so that when it does happen, you're not totally pissed off. It will still look nice and pretty. Chances are nobody's going to notice the scratches except for you, and it's going to be just fine. So just understand that it's going to get scratched. There's no way around it, and be okay with it when it happens. All right, so the next thing here, really important. I know as guys, we do not like to do this, but it is incredibly important to read the directions, and not only read through them, or not only read them, but read all the way through them and really understand them multiple times. Really know what's going on. The reason for this is a lot of times in these profile rigs, there are steps that you're going to get to in the future that what you're doing right now may affect that future step negatively. For example, these little T-nuts. There are times when you need to insert one of these T-nuts into these slots, and what happens is the process or the step that you're doing right now is going to stop exposing how you slide that T-nut in. In other words, if you need to slide this T-nut in right here, there may be a step in the future, and this happens a lot, that actually blocks this off. So while you can put these little T-nuts in like through the side, they say you can do it, it's a pain in the ass to do that. So really read through the directions and make sure that you know what your next step is, what 2 steps down and even 3 steps down in the future is going to be from where you are right now, to make sure you do not run into little irritating things like that. Because I have put together multiple brands of these profile rigs. And one thing I can say across the board is typically the directions are not that great, and they're not necessarily in the best order, I guess I would say. So just make sure that you read all the way through the directions. Make sure you're not going to run into any dumb situations like not being able to get one of these T-nuts in, and then you have to unbolt something you've already put together just to get that T-nut slot back, or T-nut back into the slot. So just read the directions. Look, I am just as guilty as the next person with this. I hate reading directions, but for these things, you really do need to read the directions. All right, the next thing here, guys, is get yourself a good set of tools before you get started. Most of these rigs do come with some tools, and yes, you can put them together with these tools, but it's not going to go as easy or as smooth as if you just go ahead and get yourself some proper tools. Have yourself some wrenches, have yourself a good set of, or a good ratchet with some good sockets and stuff like that. Just have the right tools ready. Most of us in the sim racing space have had to put stuff together, so you should have some tools somewhere. But again, you can put them together with the tools it comes with, but I just highly recommend it. It makes it a lot easier if you use legit tools. All right, and the last thing that I would say, and this is also something that you need to do before you get started, is go through all of the hardware. So the nuts, the bolts, the washers, the corner brackets, all of the stuff that this thing comes with. Go through and make sure the number of the parts that you have in the boxes actually matches the number that the directions says you're supposed to have. You do not want to get halfway through this, 3/4 of the way through this, and realize that you did not have all the parts you needed in the box. It happens. It actually has happened to me multiple times. But if you know ahead of time, you can get them to send you the stuff. It's still a pain in the ass, I know, but at least you can get the stuff to you if you're missing anything before you really get deep in this project, because nothing is more irritating than starting a project and not being able to finish it and it just sitting here halfway finished because you do not have everything you use. And then along with that, something that I have done with these that really helps is you're typically going to get a bunch of boxes with profile rigs. So much cardboard, you're going to throw a lot of it out. But keep the boxes, and specifically for this rig, I kept the box that the actual pedal plate came in because it was the right size, right? So keep that box, cut it so that the sides are a couple inches tall. So you've got the base and then you've got all four sides all the way around at about 2 inches or so. And then draw in there with a Sharpie little boxes and take all the nuts and the bolts and all the hardware that you have and organize those into those little boxes, so those little squares you've drawn in that box, and then not only put them together, but label what they are. So this is a 20 millimeter, 8 millimeter bolt, or whatever it is. This is a spring washer. This is a T-slot nut. And there's different sizes of them. Just organize everything so each individual type of part is in one specific spot, and label it so that as you're going through the directions, you can very quickly look down and go, okay, yeah, that's that 8 millimeter bolt I needed, or whatever it is you're looking for. Nope, there's the corner brackets. Instead of having to go through all the bags and stuff and mixing it all together, just keep it organized. And just cutting up a box like that and literally marking it with a Sharpie of what each individual part is really, really helps. So I'm not really sure how this video is going to end up or whatever, because it was definitely impromptu and not planned, but I felt like taking a little break here. So hopefully these tips will help you if you're getting ready to do a profile rig or really put together anything. But yeah, this one has gone pretty efficiently and pretty quickly because I have been utilizing all these tips that I've just given you. And I would be willing to put money on the fact that the one that has really made the biggest difference is the first one, getting this thing up off the ground and being able to work with it waist height and being able to walk around it just makes it so much easier. So if this helped you, please click that like button and subscribe if you're not. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you in the next video. We'll see you later.